Before Tokyo fully woke up on the morning of March 20th, 1995, before office lights flickered on and commuters settled into routine, two men drove quietly toward a subway station in the center of the city. They looked ordinary, forgettable. They stopped briefly at a convenience store. One bought common items. The other picked up gloves, a knife, duct tape, and sandals, objects that meant nothing to anyone watching, but meant everything to what was about to happen. Minutes later, as a train roared into the station, one man stepped into the first carriage and vanished into the crowd. 3 stops later, he reached into his bag, pulled out a package wrapped tightly in newspaper, and stabbed it repeatedly with the tip of his umbrella. A clear liquid soaked into the subway floor. Then he calmly exited. What he had just released was sarin, one of the deadliest nerve agents ever created. Within minutes, Tokyo's subway turned into a nightmare. Passengers collapsed mid-step. Others clawed at their throats, their vision fading, lungs burning, bodies shutting down. Emergency phone lines flooded with calls faster than responders could answer. Trains kept moving, unknowingly carrying invisible death through cramped, poorly ventilated tunnels. 13 people would die that morning. More than 6,000 would be injured. And an entire nation would be left asking how something so unthinkable could happen in one of the safest cities on Earth. The story did not begin underground. It began decades earlier with a man named Chizuo Matsumoto. Born into an ordinary family that made tatami mats, his childhood was shaped by resentment and control. Partially blind, he attended a special school where teachers noticed something disturbing. He manipulated classmates, pitting them against each other for profit and obedience. Sometimes calm, sometimes violent, he learned early how power worked. As an adult, he reinvented himself repeatedly. Acupuncturist, businessman, healer. When his counterfeit medicine operation was exposed, he lost everything. Public shame hardened into hatred, and hatred became obsession. Searching for meaning, he immersed himself in yoga, meditation, Buddhism, and Eastern philosophy. But instead of enlightenment, he created something twisted. He combined fragments of religion and science into a belief system where suffering was purification. Obedience was salvation, and he alone was the chosen guide. He opened a yoga school, launched a publishing company, and flooded media outlets with his image. He claimed spiritual recognition, promised a utopian future, and portrayed himself as humanity's final hope. He abandoned his real name and became Shoko Asahara. People followed him far more than anyone expected. Scientists from elite universities, chemists, physicists, doctors, young intellectuals disillusioned with rigid social expectations. Asahara demanded total surrender. Money, family ties, identity. Initiation was brutal. Members were locked in cramped rooms, given powerful drugs, forced into extreme practices, all justified as spiritual cleansing. Those who survived believed they were evolving beyond ordinary humans. By the late 1980s, the cult crossed a deadly threshold. Doubt was punished. One follower died during a ritual meant to purify his instability. His body was burned, his ashes scattered. When others threatened to expose the truth, Asahara ordered their deaths. A lawyer investigating the cult secretly recorded evidence of abuse. Days later, cult members broke into his home in the middle of the night and murdered him, his wife, and his child. Asahara called it merciful redemption. From that moment on, the outside world became the enemy. Asahara's ambitions turned apocalyptic, predicted the end of the world, and decided it was his mission to make it real. He organized his followers with chilling efficiency. One built a massive war fund. Another developed devices to prove spiritual enlightenment. Doctors ran secret hospitals where members were imprisoned, drugged, tortured, and sometimes killed. Scientists experimented with chemical and biological weapons, botulinum toxin, nerve agents, anything capable of mass death. Humans became test subjects. Failure meant punishment. Success only fueled greater plans. When police began closing in, Asahara struck first. The Tokyo subway attack was not random, it was a calculated diversion. In the early hours of March 20th, the attackers rehearsed with water-filled bags. Antidotes were distributed. Vehicles departed toward multiple subway lines converging near Japan's government district. One by one, the packages were punctured. One by one, trains carried poison deeper into the city. Some attacks partially failed, others succeeded too well. Victims collapsed without knowing why. Trains kept running, spreading death. Yet chance intervened. The sarin used that day was less pure than intended. Earlier accidents had disrupted chemical supplies. Had the gas reached full potency, the outcome could have been catastrophic interstations, even neighborhoods wiped out. Within hours, investigators traced the attack to Shinrikyo. Raids followed. Chemical labs were uncovered. Hidden rooms were exposed. Asahara was eventually found hiding in a cramped space, surrounded by his own filtha, self-proclaimed god reduced to a frightened man. In 2018, he and his closest followers were executed. The Tokyo subway attack remains one of the most horrifying acts of domestic terrorism in modern history, not only because of what happened, but because of how close it came to being far worse. It revealed the danger of blind faith, the fragility of modern life, and the devastating power of ideology mixed with science. Most chilling of all, it proved that the greatest threats often arrive quietly. On ordinary mornings, carried by people who look just like everyone else,